You're listening to the Ringer NBA show presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook has made it easier than ever to get in on the action during an NBA playoff game, even after tip-off. Just look for the live SGP tab on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and build your bet slip. Then sit back, relax, and track the outcome of your parlay right in the app. And if you don't already have it, download the FanDuel app today to make every moment more. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Hello and welcome to Group Chat. I am Justin Verrier, and joining me back on this Monday morning, Rob Mahoney, Big Woz. Before we got on this pod, Woz was telling us that he is, what did you have, the most successful thing of your career just happened? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, baby viral on Instagram. Me and Robert Horry talking about the time he threw a towel in Danny Ainge's face. When Danny Ainge was the newly interim coach of the Phoenix Suns. I think this would have been like 1997 or 98. I think it was 98. Yeah, he told a great story about why and how the buildup to that towel throwing moment happened, and everything that I've ever thought about Danny Ainge confirmed in that story. Part of why I was so proud and happy when the Utah Jazz got the number 6 pick, I was like, yes, Danny Ainge loses again.
Meanwhile, Justin, we're just fucking chopped liver over here.
That's what I'm saying.
No, because per our other conversation before the pod, I was
my
thinking
previous
about
email. Yeah.
what do we have to do on this show to get Justin Verrier to be the commencement speaker at a future UConn graduation for some fresh face undergrads about to go out into the world. Could you imagine Justin giving his core week speech at the UConn commencement?
I would love it.
Listen, I'm very available, especially these days. So if anyone wants to give me that honor, a fake degree, I'm here for it.
Here's the thing. It doesn't even have to be UConn. Like, I was doing some research about my alma mater, the University of Texas. Taylor Sheridan was the commencement speaker.
Wow.
I get it. Very famous. Not a graduate or an alumni in any way of the University of Texas. So
does he live there?
We just have to well, he went to Texas State, famously a Texan, but not the University of Texas.
Okay. So anybody can just be pulled in for any college.
Yes. So we need to get you, Justin, an honorary doctorate to any college, any mid-major that let's start small and we'll work our way up the commencement circuit.
You should probably start at a JUCO or something.
A JUCO?
Yeah.
I think Justin's better than that. No. As Justin's
college?
agent, we're refusing all JUCO, technical college, cooking colleges, specialty schools. Don't even bother. If you're a mid-major or above, Justin Verrier will speak at your commencement.
Hawaii? Maybe St. Bonaventure will bring me Isaiah's alma mater. Me and Woj will just rub elbows talking about the good old days. That'll be fun.
Justin's going to tell the grads, like, I almost gave up on this pod one day and then it hit me. The variables.
That's right. All you have to do is come up with a bit based off a pun on your name that really isn't anything except for that. That's the key to success, friends.
That's gold.
All right. Well, we're not doing that for this podcast. We will going into the finals as we typically do. This is just a big old conference finals preview because oddly enough, on this Monday, as we're recording, no games. And then we're hitting the ground running for the conference finals. West on Tuesday, East on Wednesday. We're going to be back on Wednesday night to cover that one. And then Saturday and back on that regular schedule. But first and foremost, I think we have to talk about the game that just happened Sunday afternoon. Thunder Nuggets. Thunder blow out the Nuggets in Game 7. Rob, to me, this one kind of brought back the whole idea of why we were so encouraged by the Thunder to begin with. Like in Game 2, they blow out the Nuggets. 87 points, what was it in the first half? That seemed like an outlier in the situation. For me, this game was the Thunder as we expected. Defense, first and foremost, with Caruso giving way to offense. J-Dub comes alive, et cetera, et cetera. Did it seem like that to you, that this was like the most representative of what the Thunder's championship odds are this entire season?
Absolutely. I think down to the fact that like the offense was good, not great otherwise. Like a lot of things working. J-Dub obviously had a big game where he kind of clicked back into place, but the most dominant force in that game was the Thunder defense. The most dominant force in this postseason overall has probably been the Thunder defense. And so if they are going to have a championship path, and they're right on the precipice of that now in the Western Conference Finals, that's where the road goes. It is a defense first path. It goes through forcing all those turnovers. It goes through guys like Alex Caruso, as you mentioned, being able to guard literally 1 through 5, even if that includes Nikola Jokic. Remarkable stuff from the Thunder, who have been a remarkable team all year.
Yeah, and I think their championship medal is based on, yes, they have an MVP, but also the depth, which, in a playoff setting, we kind of poo-poo depth, but like when the Thunder make their depth work, it is this turnover forcing, not being forced to play in the half court, interchangeable parts. It's a machine. And pretty much I guess you could say the Pacers have depth. I don't know that we would describe the Timberwolves as having that.
They've got a solid.
Yeah,
they got a solid 8.
They're not the Knicks. It's not 6 and some duct tape.
Obviously, we wouldn't describe the Knicks that way. And, it feels like you can get by in the postseason without having it. But the Thunder, when they're right, they're making their depth work for them in the ways that you need depth to, meaning guys going 1,000 million% every single minute that they're on the floor and actually making it effective. Rotations, forcing turnovers, making the offense not just work, but think, because there's a mental exhaustion that comes with all right, I have to be so deliberate and so conscious of every single action that I run here. And it takes its toll over the course of a game, over the course of an entire series. And I think Denver was just kind of at their wits' end.
I think some of the ways that depth manifests too is when you're deep enough where you have good players you don't even have to play. And like we saw, for example, Jay Will came into the series about midway through as somebody who was guarding Nikola Jokic, became an important part of the Thunder rotation. Game 7, Mark Daigneault goes really small through a lot of that game. Starts Caruso in the second half. There were some lineups with no big on the floor at all. They took the training wheels off of Chet and were like, sometimes you're going to be our only big without Jay Will. It's always one of my favorite Charksisms. Shout out to our guy, Jonathan Charks, that as a series goes on, it always gets smaller.
Right.
Smaller and smaller and smaller as you go. And by the end, how many centers are even playable in those games? And Isaiah Hartenstein is certainly playable no matter who you're going up against. But very telling that by the end, at the end of the road, the Thunder went as small as they did, and I think only got more and more ferocious the smaller that they did.
Yeah, I've waxed poetic throughout this entire season about just the overall structure with the Thunder and how top down they are and how much they think about the big picture. And part of that was getting guys into the games that probably won't see in the rotation, but you might, or lineups that you might want to have in your back pocket for these sorts of situations. And I thought the J-Dub lineup at center was the prime example of that. Yeah, they went to it earlier this season out of necessity because they didn't have centers, but look at it coming to bear when they needed it most. I just love the way these parts interlock, and Caruso is probably the prime example of that. One of the few guys they've gone outside of their feeder system in order to add, Hartenstein being the other one. It ended up being Caruso when you needed him, not only starting in the second half, but probably being the biggest player in this game 7. And then he and Hartenstein were the two guys guarding Jokic when it mattered most. Those are their two big pickups over the offseason. It's just things just fall into place for this team so well. And it's just when you need something, they have that something.
Yeah, I mean, the two offseason pickups, it's one of those rare times where you can so obviously see how these guys are going to fit into the equation. We just knew what Caruso and Hartenstein were going to mean for this team, especially Hartenstein, because Chet and Jay Will were their only two bigs last year. And these guys, they're not pushovers or scrubs, but neither one are traditional centers or big men. So you kind of knew Hartenstein was going to, fulfill that role. And then just the size. Caruso just plays so much bigger than he actually is. And so, yeah, they had a bunch of guys that could dribble, pass, and shoot at those positions, but they didn't play big defensively. And all these guys that we loved last regular season against Dallas, it started being like, holy shit, can we trust this guy to even guard PJ Washington? Like, it got to that point. And so now in this year's playoffs, they have Hartenstein as big man help. They have Caruso as their like big wing, interchangeable defender, sort of a Swiss Army knife for the wing. And yeah, it's one of those crazy things where like the offseason move works out exactly as people thought and envisioned that it would.
And clearly the Thunder knew that too. And, Justin, you mentioned he's kind of one of their few guys who came from outside the system, but also he was kind of inside the system as an Oklahoma City Blue alum, like playing for Mark Daigneault for the Blue.
It's a great photo if you haven't seen it out there. Yeah.
Incredible fits on Daigneault in particular. Just really a relic of a time, a different time in sartorial coaching history. But I thought there was a really important moment, before this game became a blowout, in the second quarter when it was still a dogfight, and the Thunder offense was so reliant on all these open threes that just like were not falling. And there was a possession that kicked out to Caruso from Shea, normal like driving kick stuff. Chet is wide open in the corner, probably had just missed a couple threes in that quarter already. And instead of swinging it, Caruso like waits a beat. Cason Wallace cuts from the weak side. He hits him in the middle. All of a sudden, Chet is cutting baseline for a lob dunk instead of a three. Mm-hmm. And it's like that kind of stuff from Caruso too. Like we talk all the time about the defense and probably not enough about the connective tissue of what he brings on offense, the poise of what he brings on offense. Like he's a guy who has a sense of the moment in every possible respect. And sometimes that means passing up what in theory is a pretty good shot for the sake of what your offense actually needs in a game and in a matchup like this. And that's going to be a huge thing against the Wolves too, who like that's going to be a battle of the two best playoff defenses. And so the Thunder are going to have to figure out how to crack that all over again.
So the tracking had Caruso guarding Jokic one-on-one for about 13 minutes. Jokic was 4 for 12, 4 turnovers. Caruso had 2 steals. Jokic also had 12 free throws, I think all of which probably happened in that game 7, maybe all of which happened in that first half where he was going to the line every 5 seconds. The turnovers were so huge, not only for the entire team because that's just how they play their best, but also J-Dub felt alive for probably the first time in that second quarter. He had 17 points alone. I think he had 0 in the first quarter. It just felt like that is how you get him going, getting him out in transition, him getting steals himself and sparking the runouts. Do you feel any different about J-Dub going into the West Finals? Maybe you did earlier in this series because he's had a very mixed outcome so far this postseason.
No, not really, to be honest, because I think the Wolves are going to be able to make this thing a half-court game. And let's face it, they're just so much more equipped to guard this OKC team than Denver is. I think he's going to have a tough season, a series, excuse me. And if OKC is going to prevail, it's because their other guys are just straight up making shots.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to. Look, I think J-Dub can get to a point where he's a reliable, dare I say it, Jaylen Brown-esque, kind of number 2 on the perimeter. I don't think he's there yet, not this year, which is fine. It's like his 3rd freaking year in the NBA. But I don't know, man. I wasn't disabused of that. Just watching this guy, basically shooting the 30s, the mid to low 30s for 3 games, critical games against the Nuggets. Again, like we got a lot of respect for the Nuggets, but people thought this was like the worst defense in the whole playoffs coming into this thing. And at times they looked like a freaking juggernaut against OKC in the half court. And I think a lot of it is that J-Dub just isn't there yet. But if they're able to, and I think they will have opportunity to turn the Wolves over and make this thing a different kind of offensive, calculation than just executing perfectly in the half court against a set defense in Minnesota with even Julius Randle is playing at damn near all NBA defense type of levels. I'm not saying he's going to suck. I'm just saying I don't anticipate him being this dominant player in the next series.
Yeah.
I just don't see that for him.
And I think that's okay for him not to be at that level yet. You know, like it took Jaylen Brown a long time to become Jaylen Brown to really stabilize in that way. And I think the part of the J-Dub conversation is we talk about him like we talk about many stars, which is like, are you creating in these moments? Like the lack of whether it's shot making or shot creation in some of these games has been a little glaring and a little concerning considering how much the Thunder ask of him. But like Jaylen Brown, he is a guy who is a huge impact player on defense.
Yes,
he's a huge impact player on the glass. And so, yes, he's a star and we hold him to star standards and we want to see all these things from him as he kind of goes through his progression and his journey as a player. But bottom line, even if he's shooting 20% from three, that's a guy who's making an impact on the game. And so he's going to make an impact on the Western Conference Finals, even if he's not hitting shots, even if he's having trouble finishing through all the length inside that Minnesota is going to present. Like, he's going to have a say. It's just going to be a matter of whether he can have enough of those transcendent Jaylen Brown taking the next step kind of games that the Thunder really need from him.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about the West Finals a little bit later, but I want to talk about the Nuggets just because we won't be seeing them for a little while. How many tissues collectively did you guys use last night? Just were the tears flowing or?
This guy, the nerve of this cat.
As if we didn't talk about the Thunder going to the finals. As
by
if
the
they're
way,
not my
this is the
championship
guy
pick.
that picked the sweep in this series, by the way. Just let's not forget that part.
I did not do that.
This is the guy that picked the sweep. Yeah, they're going to march through. It's like a hot knife through butter. That's going to be OKC. Look, I didn't think Aaron Gordon was going to play. The fact that he did, like, that's big. That's nice. But he just wasn't himself, obviously. And the guys that were counted upon, MPJ, Souther, Russell Westbrook, like, as we say these names, you know, it is kind of funny. MPJ, look, he's had nice playoff runs before. He's obviously super hurt, but he was dog shit in this series. Like, just
in a word,
horrible player.
Yeah.
He was horrible. Russ had his moments, but again, this is a guy they picked up off the scrap heap for nothing and turned him into a 30-minute player in the freaking playoffs, right? And this is not just Kobe. It's just like, just look at the team. Look at what they were counting on. You know, that they even got this thing to a game 7 in the manner that they did was a minor miracle. And so I thought they would lose. You know, I kind of thought they would lose especially once I heard Aaron Gordon was dealing with a major injury. But, you know, I think they gave it a great effort. Whoever they hire, you know, who they're not going to pay because this team doesn't believe in paying people, this ownership group, I hope he figures out an offseason where you can actually get competent, you know, 5 through 7 players so that you could put next to Nikola Jokic, a guy that's proven that he can make gourmet out of tuna fish. Like, that's all I hope for the offseason.
I mean, that's the thing is, like, big picture, if you have Nikola Jokic on your team and you're not contending, you have kind of failed.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just the standard. If you have a guy like that on your team. All of that said, based on where we were 5 days before the playoffs, with people getting fired, getting to game 7 in the second round against the Thunder is a pretty good outcome from that point.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of last year's Knicks, where it's just like they needed bodies just to finish out the playoffs. And it's a credit to what they built. Honestly, if they had 2 more adult, like, league average rotation players, would they win the title? I think they would be probably the favorites, or at least co-favorites with the Thunder. And I think it's a really credit to them that what basically everyone is saying at this point is that it's OKC's finals to lose because they are clearly the best team amongst the 4 that are left here. We'll see about that. I think we need to pour one out. Maybe it's like muscle milk or like a protein shake for Aaron Gordon playing on one leg, though. What did he have in terms of rebounds? He had 11 rebounds in that game.
11, yeah.
And then he had a couple other tip outs where he just wasn't even jumping. He probably had like 5 more of those. He did everything he could. I'm a little worried for him next year because this is now his 3rd hamstring strain, 1 on this left one and 2 during the season for his right one. And even when he was playing, it was a constant worry and concern. And so I think long term, we'll get to that. We'll see if there's going to be ramifications there, because I hope there aren't. But I would say this was a real die on your shield performance from like one of our favorite players.
Yes. I mean, there's off seasons where you go into it like Aaron Gordon did last year and it's like, okay, I need to retool my jump shot. I need to be in the lab as much as possible this summer. And then there's summers like this one where that guy needs to be on the couch as much as possible. Give your streaming recommendations to Aaron Gordon, please. Put a PlayStation controller in this guy's hand.
It's going to become DeAndre Ayton of the Nuggets.
Look, I think he probably should consider it. You know, like now is the time to shift down, and it's the front office's time to shift up to create the kind of roster where Aaron Gordon doesn't have to die on his shield in a game 7 because you have some other people that Jokic can rely on, that Christian Brown can rely on. Like, this was a pretty underwhelming Jamal Murray game 2, which did not help matters. And yeah, the Michael Porter element, like, I think the injury is tough for him because it feeds into his worst instincts as a player of being such a perimeter-oriented threat, and that only.
That guy hates contact.
Does not play well through contact, has never sought it out, has never been that kind of guy unless really, really nudged to do it. And it's just hard to talk yourself into that when your arm is in the state that it is.
Well, just one last thing on the Nuggets, and I get it, the Celtics lost, and people say what they want, but I don't know, who's the Celtics' third best player? Derek White or something?
Probably, yeah.
Like, if Derek White injured his hammy and couldn't play in a game 7, you wouldn't go into it thinking like the Celtics are deeply compromised, right? Like, you'd be like, they could still pull this out against any team. It's one game. You could get it done. Bruh, a compromised Aaron Gordon for the Nuggets, like, bro, you're done. You're done. You don't have another power forward. You don't have another great physical perimeter defensive player. You like this guy, like, he's doing everything. He's stretching the like, bruh.
He's initiating offense. It's really important.
Insanity. The thinness of this roster.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good segue to our war room, which we're reassembling right now. Everyone get their thinking hats on because we're only coming with good ideas here. I think if you were to say when Calvin Booth charted the path of bringing in rookie contract guys to supplement what he had in his core 4, now would be the time where everything starts to come to fruition. Like, maybe we have 1 or 2 fallow periods, like, oh, maybe like this year is a little bit more disappointing, but we have 5 to 10 years of Nikola Jokic in his prime. We're just going to dominate in the future. Unfortunately, these are the guys that you're expecting to come about. Rob, you tell me if any of these guys you believe in. So Christian Brown is on another level, I would say.
Yeah, he's obviously believe in him.
Yes.
The other guys are Peyton Watson, maybe, Jalen Pickett,
sometimes.
Julian Strawther, Hunter Tyson, Deron Holmes, who unfortunately didn't play a single minute this season after being drafted in the first round. Are any of those guys you're counting on next season to be like a core 7 guy?
I think one of them is going to have to be.
Yeah.
Like, Peyton Watson is at least proven it defensively and in terms of his athleticism that he can somewhat hang in a series like this. Like, that's important. Otherwise, I have gone around and around the carousel. Some weeks I'm like, I kind of believe in Julian Strawther, and then he'll have 2 weeks where he disappears. Some weeks I'm like, oh, Jalen Pickett, like there's a little bit of on the dribble juice, like on the ball juice there that I really like. And then you see him try to fit into some of these playoff lineups against the Clippers, and it's like, oh, this does not work at all at this level of competition. Deron Holmes is the guy who you still hear the murmurs, like, oh, once he gets a chance, he's really going to pop with this team. I literally don't know, and I'm going to need to believe it when I see it because I have not seen
murmurs. Yeah.
Like, my ear is pretty low to the ground on that one, I'll admit. It's a distant rumble, but it is there.
You can play 10 minutes of backup center. That's gold.
Anything.
It's tough. I think Peyton Watson is an actual player. Definitely, like, the heights. Like, last year, some of the stuff he was doing, I was like, wow, this guy is, like, gonna be a killer. A little bit cool on him now, but I think he's a guy they should be happy that they was able to find him, kind of develop him. You know, he's got the tools in terms of the length and the feet and that kind of thing. Okay, obviously Christian Brown is a bona fide, just straight up NBA starter level kind of player.
Yeah.
And he's added stuff to his game, like, tangibly. Way better shooter this year. Like, anytime this guy used to dribble the basketball in the past, I used to want to grab a Tums. But now it's like, okay, this isn't the worst thing that I've ever seen. But outside of that, no. You can't say to yourself, this is the rotation I'm going to ride and die with Strawther and Pickett next year. No.
It's almost like the 2 timelines thing doesn't work.
It hasn't yet.
It's so crazy to think about that. But
Well, here's the complicating factor. If this isn't already way too complicated, both Brown and Watson are up for rookie extensions this year. Even if you wait until next offseason, the money is going to get complicated very quickly. And so you might be saying like, oh, all we need are 2 adults in the room. Let's just go out there and get our new equivalent of Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. And we'll have enough of a rotation. That's all we actually need. Unfortunately, it's going to be really tough to bring back Brown and Watson and do that. And so I have to imagine not only might you have to trade Michael Porter Jr., who we're all kind of talking around, might not be long for this world. He only has 2 years left on his deal. The second year is only like a third of his $41 million is guaranteed. So I think that would be attractive to some people. I think you not only need to break him into rotation players, you also might need to break him into younger rotation players because the money is going to get very complicated. Or you need guys on expirings just to give these young guys another year. And so I don't know, Rob, do you see a pathway through here? Is it as simple as trading MPJ for like rotation players?
I think that is the path. The question is, who does that appeal to? Like, what teams in what position are like clamoring?
Why do you want an MPJ on your team?
I think it's tough because he's shown in the limited stretches where the Nuggets have called on him to create offense or carry certain bench lineups or whatever. It's like he's not particularly attuned to that, like to that kind of bulk creation. He's not a great like off the dribble shooter per se, off the dribble scorer, not the most dynamic guy with the ball in his hands other than as a catch and shoot threat. And can be a really, really good catch and shoot threat, has a jumper that's impossible to block. All that stuff is really valuable for the Denver Nuggets. If you're a team that's rebuilding and looking to offload, say you're the Brooklyn Nets and you're like, okay, let's package a couple of veteran role players for Michael Porter Jr., does that get you literally anywhere? I kind of don't think it does. And so the path is, yes, ideally you want to trade Michael Porter Jr. for, say, 2 good role players who can hang in a series like this one. That would be ideal. Is that realistic? I don't know. They're also going to have to mind the market on the edges, on the fringes for, as you said, Justin, the next Bruce Brown, the next Jeff Green. Those guys don't just grow on trees. They're going to be in heavy competition for all of these other apron teams that are looking to get good veteran help on the cheap. Although one of them might just be Bruce Brown, to be honest with you, who has like a 23-ish million team option for next season. I think so. The Pelicans are probably not just going to pick that up.
I think he's a free agent now. I think he's unrestricted.
Is he officially past his deadline? I think the deadline is a summer deadline, though.
I think his team option was for this season that he just played in. I think he's
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Got you. So will be an unrestricted free agent. Also was just like popping up for some Denver playoff games and is beloved there.
He misses the team.
Yeah, so, maybe he'll go back around the block with those guys. I don't know.
They don't fit as well in New Orleans, let me tell you.
No, but the Mountain West, all of a sudden we're talking.
For that. Look, the MPJ thing, you guys know I've been trading this guy for like 3-4 years now. I don't think he's worth what he's being paid. The problem is, I think MPJ's ideal role would be to be what Tobias Harris was on a young team. It's like, oh, we're trying to take a step. Let's get a guy who's proven that he could do at least shoot, and at times he'll show himself to be kind of competent on defense, whatever. The problem is they paid Tobias Harris $12 million to do that. This guy has $80 million left on his deal.
Yep.
2 years, 80. How do you fill out a roster that you're just like, oh, okay, we're just trying to get our young guys to develop and we want to put this thing, like, we know this is a known commodity, his competent shooting. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to move this dude. That's why he's been on my worst contract list for like 2-3 years running. This kid sucks. I'm sorry.
I think it's very telling.
Sucks is strong, but
okay, sucks is strong. Sucks is strong.
Yeah.
But he's very inconsistent. And in the best of times, it's like, okay, he's making open jump shots.
Yes. Where is the star level pop to his game that was foretold when he was like the number one prospect coming out of high school? Seems like he settled into the role that he's like best suited for, which is just a big old shooter who will help you with the size advantage and will just spread the floor for you, which is like a very helpful player. But at $40 million to one point is difficult. I think it's very telling that for virtually every team that is up against the cap, we're like, man, they basically need to turn this guy into two lower paid role players, and we always identify the Nets as the team to facilitate that. It seems like the Nets are going to have to like basically open things up for 9 different teams at this point, which shows you how shrewd a team like the Clippers was getting ahead of this, like not doing the Paul George trade and kind of chopping him up into Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. It's just like, it seems like teams that did that earlier are in a kind of in the catbird seat right now.
Also, again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Jamal Murray at $50 million per.
It's not great.
Okay. Jamal Murray had a great playoff run. Like until this game 7 had a great playoff run.
All-star level playoff run.
Wait, hold on. He had a great playoff run, Rob? By what standard are we talking about?
By the standard
of
like
he didn't play like he did in the regular season?
Okay. He's been one of the best players in the postseason. Like not top 5, but one of the best performers in the postseason.
One of the top 24 postseason performers.
Without a doubt.
Yes. Jamal Murray.
I think he's been really good. You haven't been impressed at all with the shot making, with the playmaking, with the contested drives? Like, he's been good.
At all. But like, I guess he's been as good as Karl Anthony Towns and Pascal Siakam, I guess.
I think he's been largely better than those guys, in particular against the best defense in basketball.
Okay.
I would say he's been very good. It's just the inconsistencies just pop up at the worst time for him, including in that game 7. It's just like that's a perfect moment for him to have one of those 30-point explosions. He has been sick, again, I guess. For sure. But
$90 million on him and MPJ, bro.
It's a lot.
That's not ideal, dude. Like, as much as they ask Jokic to do so much, and they pay those guys $90 million a year. That's crazy to me.
Here's the issue with the 90 mil proposition is like, I feel like so many seasons we're going to go through and get to this point and be like, man, they really asked a lot of Nikola Jokic just to get through the regular season. And some of that is because you're paying Michael Porter Jr. a lot of money and he is what he is, which is someone who's reliant on other people to create shots. Some of that is because Jamal Murray is who is a guy who does get injured.
He doesn't try in the regular season.
And also is not locked in like that in the regular season. Like, there are guys who get paid a lot because they get you to the playoffs in one piece. And Jamal Murray is not that. He's paid a lot because when you get to the playoffs, he's a really high-level performer. And honestly, the Nuggets need both, and they don't have enough of both right now. And so then Jokic gets taxed on both ends.
That is the code that the Thunder broke. They have both. They're one of the few teams that have high-end talent plus depth. It's so tough to come by, but the few teams that are still with us all still have it. I will. One last thing on the Nuggets. Rick Adelman, Waz, is your guy from Mad TV coming back, or what do you think?
Oh, David Adelman.
David Adelman, sorry. Rick Adelman.
I mean, how do you not bring him back? How do you view his tenure in the interim as anything but a rousing success? How do you not bring this guy back?
They will. I think they will. Yeah. That would be my full assumption at this point, based on his postseason performance, and also based on the fact that, as I guess he's no longer a first-time head coach, but still kind of a first-time head coach, is going to be within the price range of what the Nuggets want to pay.
Yeah, $3 million. Get it done.
No, that sounds great.
FanDuel's turning your bets into bigger wins with a parlay profit boost. That's right. Build a same-game parlay or parlay, and you could boost your winnings by 30% with a profit boost. You pick the teams, players, stats, all of it. FanDuel just adds a little fuel to the fire. Whether you're betting three-pointers, home runs, goals, or birdies, FanDuel's got markets across every sport and every game. And the best part, when you win, you'll get paid instantly. So go check it out. FanDuel's where your parlay gets paid even bigger. Head to FanDuel.com/RingerNBA to get started. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 plus and present in select states or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. All right, let's flip to the Western Conference Finals. Thunder, your 1 seed, your Minnesota Timberwolves, your 6 seed. So they played 4 times in the regular season. 3 of those games were in a 3 out of 4 set. So within 4 games, they played 3 times. And 2 of those was a back-to-back in February. And Rudy did not play in any of those 3 games. And I believe Jalen Clark started. So if you were to go back to the regular season and try to find something about this matchup, I think it's kind of a fool's errand because, once again, the stupid back-to-back or 3 and 4, which honestly I can't remember another team playing, strikes again. So just another shout out to the schedule makers in the NBA for fucking us, not only in the regular season, but it carries over into the playoffs. I have to suppress my urge to want to believe in the Wolves here, despite the fact that as I was going through the prep for this, Rob, everything is like shouting at you, no, don't do it. Like the Thunder are the perfect team to just make Ant and the Timberwolves' lives miserable just because of all the turnovers and all the defensive complications they present. Do you see this as a pretty clear advantage for the Thunder?
I don't know that it's a clear... Here's the thing. There are clear advantages. Will that manifest in a short series? No. Will that mean it won't be a fight? No. I think this will be a really tough, hotly contested series. But I think it's something more attuned to the kind of fight that the Thunder are used to. I would not be surprised if when you watch OKC in this series, even though it's competitive, the margins are close, there's something about their play that feels like a little bit of a breath of fresh air, even though Minnesota is one of the best defensive teams in basketball, just because they survived this run-in with the Nuggets. They survived this run-in with Nikola Jokic. They got through it, and they got to a matchup that feels more in their wheelhouse. A perimeter-oriented team that's reliant on Ant to create, where their turnovers can really, really make hay. That feels like the way the Thunder want to play. And it feels like ultimately the balance is something that really, really suits them. And so the turnover battle is probably going to decide a lot. And this is the number 1 turnover forcing team in the playoffs against the highest turnover team left in the field.
Jesus.
Minnesota is just doing shit out there. Sometimes they will just make mind-numbing mistakes. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these games play out similarly to Game 7, where all of a sudden the Thunder have 37 points off turnovers, right? And then it's all of Minnesota's half-court defense, which is incredibly formidable, is a little bit muted, or at least they're able to kind of circumvent it by working in transition off those turnovers.
I don't know, man. I think they're going to have a hard time with this team.
It's still going to be hard.
I think one, Minnesota, we say perimeter oriented, but they're now an inside-outside team because Julius Randle
Hell yeah.
is an inside player. This guy is hard to stop in the paint. They're going to have to divert extra resources to stopping this guy from scoring inside. I know my brain also wants to explode, but this guy has been insanely good. He's been one of the best players in the playoffs, period. And then obviously we know what Ant is doing on the outside, but for me, honestly, guys, I think it's just Minnesota's athleticism and size. Because Denver had size and didn't have a lot of athleticism. Mm-hmm. Minnesota has size and athleticism. They are going to be a whale of a defense, man, for precisely the kind of things that OKC wants to do. Where in the Denver series, Denver is running, let's face it, a lot of gimmicky kind of zones, and we're going to concede it to Lou Dort. We're going to concede it to, some of these other guys. We're going to let Hartenstein take a wide open floater. They're all right, in order to keep some level of integrity to our defense, we're just going to give shit up. Minnesota's not going to have to play that way. They're going to be able to guard these dudes straight up. They're the threes ain't gonna be completely uncontested.
No.
They're gonna have great rotations. These guys are gonna be incredibly tough for OKC to get their buckets against. And, that's before we even talk about, like, when Shea is attacking, they don't have to send as much help as the Nuggets did. Right? Like, they have Jaden McDaniels. They have Anthony Edwards. Like, even, Nikhil Alexander. Like, they have guys that it's like, yo, let's leave them on an island.
Yeah.
And see if Shea could score 50 that way. That's what I'm really worried for OKC. It's not like they could guard Minnesota. I think their offense is going to be a slog in this series.
I don't disagree. I also think Shea is maybe more comfortable playing that way. Like, we saw all through the regular season, ace defensive stoppers trying to slow down Shea one-on-one, and nobody could really do it. You put that zone in front of him, and it kind of like took him time to adjust to it and to figure out how to work the angles on that. And I'm not sure he ever did to a level that was fully elevating the Thunder's half-court offense. Like, they figured some stuff out. He had an undeniably productive series. But there are elements of the way Minnesota guards that, as you say, are more straightforward. They can stay at home. They can defend more honestly. And I think Shea does pretty well with honest defense in a way that kind of concerns me for the Minnesota part of this.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to depend on how much the Timberwolves can lean on their size advantage, and I think a lot of that is going to be dictated by the shooting success of OKC. How many times did we see Denver being able to go into the zone or basically being able to pack the paint against Shea just because the shots weren't falling? You might say like, oh, shooting variance, et cetera, but through the playoffs overall, they're only shooting 32% from three. That's 14th among playoff teams, and they're still shooting at volume. This isn't like Denver, who is going to take a select amount of threes, and maybe they'll make or miss it, but they execute on such a high level. Like, the Thunder need those threes to open things up. And I think if they are not doing that, then Rudy gets to stay on the floor and basically is a deterrent for those Shea drives. And then on the flip side, can he be something like he was in that one game against the Lakers where he can be more of an offensive threat? I don't know, and that's when things start to get a little tricky. But I do think, like, on the one hand, Denver was the toughest probably opponent for the weaknesses that the Thunder presented, right? Because that if the threes aren't falling, then it becomes a lot about execution. Denver's the worst team you want to face in an execution battle. I do wonder, the Timberwolves won't get to that level, but do they have certain advantages from that set in order to maybe lean on that in order to win the series? And I think first and foremost, it starts with Rudy, yes, but also Julius Randle, where it's like, if they're going to send extra help at Ant, and I assume they will, just to get the ball out of his hand, just to create more turnovers as we saw throughout the playoffs, well, is Randle going to be like a high-level playmaker and get those other guys involved in the way as he has? And I think both those would be like, maybe. But if we're just going based off of the postseason, I think it's probably yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden that becomes a new advantage that nobody was factoring in. And we might be talking to ourselves, Rob, at this point, like Julius Randle might swing the Western Conference Finals.
He absolutely might. And that's another element as far as like throwing out the regular season series because of that 3 and 4 that you highlighted. Julius Randle played in none of those 3 games. And so then you say, okay, Ant shot like absolute shit against the Thunder in the regular season, but that's because he didn't have his second creator on the floor with him, not to mention Rudy Gobert in some of those contests. And so ultimately a healthier, more balanced, the version of the Wolves that we've seen in the playoffs with this version of Randle is so much more formidable. That version of Randle is going to have a test unlike anything he's seen before, which is driving, yes, with a size advantage, but with 8 other arms swiping down at every dribble he takes in the paint, at every pass he tries to kick out. That's going to be a real test of his patience, of his ability to read the floor. I'm curious to see kind of how the Thunder want to guard him on ball to begin with. I assume that's going to be a lot of J-Dub, who I thought did quite a good job with Aaron Gordon when he was healthy in terms of dealing with that strength, quote unquote disadvantage, but really holding his own. Also would not be surprised if we see a lot of Alex Caruso on Julius Randle, mucking things up the way he did with Jokic. I also would not be surprised if we see Caruso on Rudy Gobert at points in this series.
Would you start Caruso at this point? Or because I think the beauty of the Thunder, as we outlined, is that they won't shy away from just going single big game one. I don't know if that's Chet or Hartenstein. I think Hartenstein has probably more of an advantage against Rudy, whereas Chet is giving up size. But if you want to lean more offense-wise, you're probably going Chet. Let's have the drivers and hope to blow him off the floor by halftime. Do you think Caruso should start? I guess is the question.
I know there are people who think you need to just throw out what you think is your best stuff automatically. I kind of like the curveball element. See if your 2 big stuff can work.
Yeah.
And it's a long series. Give yourself the opportunity to have counters. You know what I mean? If you just come out and be like, oh, our Caruso thing, and then Minnesota responds, it's kind of like, a punch to the gut when that happens. So I honestly do understand why coaches, and Ty Lue is like this, like he will wait till like 3-4 games into the series to switch his stuff up. And I understand that, honestly. I don't think they should just go, all right, yo, we're dedicating. Because I think there's something to like, we're dedicating this game plan to you guys. We're changing who we've been all year because we're scared of Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle. Nah, fuck that. We coming against you guys. We're going to play how we play. And if it doesn't work, we'll switch it up.
There you go. Have it in your back pocket. I think you're right, though, Waz. Like, you got to string it out as much as you can. And game 1 and game 2 are, I think, a trial of, like, what can you get away with? Can you get away with having your star off for this stretch? Can you get away with playing a little bigger than might make sense for this matchup? And like Isaiah Hartenstein is important to this matchup, whether he starts or not. He's important in a different way than he was against Denver. It's going to be much more about his rebounding and his rim protection against Ant and Randall crashing inside than post defense against Nikola Jokic. But he's going to have to be a factor. And if you yank him out from the start, I think you're already kind of testing the integrity of your rotation, and you're testing the integrity of, the psychology of someone like Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, you want him to feel confident about his place in the series and the impact he can have on it. And so, like, let him get out there against Rudy and box some guys out and pull down 12 rebounds in game 1 and see how those minutes go and see what you can get away with.
And watching LeBron so much throughout his career, especially back when he was like legitimately still the best player in the NBA, game 1s were almost like trial balloons. Like, literally. They would treat this shit like, all right, we'll see what they got. We'll see what kind of defense they want to play. Let's see what the coverage is. Oh, they're covering the pick and roll this. Oh, when we bring this guy up, they do that. Oh, it is a kind of like feeling out process. And that's why I'm like, man, start Hartenstein and see what these guys got.
Especially when the game is 2 games after your game 7 in the middle of the day on a Sunday. Now, the Thunder have the advantage that they are going to be home and they didn't have to travel from game 7. And so they have that there. But like the fact that this is starting before the Eastern Conference Finals is a little annoying if you're a Thunder fan. So maybe it will have to be a feel out game. The other thing I wanted to mention is Jaden McDaniels feels like this is a big time for him to continue the success he's had in the first 2 rounds. So overall, in the playoffs right now, Jaden McDaniels has a total plus minus of plus 84. That is 6th, tied for 6th in the playoffs right now with Tyrese Halliburton. The top 5 players, unfortunately, all play for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Part of that is because they just blew the doors off of Memphis, but obviously...
And Denver. And those like the blowout Denver games didn't hurt either.
Right. And so it speaks to like the task at hand there, but also, Rob, I think it speaks to Jaden being like such a big factor for them thus far. And I think he's going to have to be it again because once Randall gets the ball in those advantage situations, what is Jaden McDaniels going to be able to do? Is he going to be able to hit shots? Is he going to be able to put it on the deck and attack a closeout? Seems like if he's going to be like on it, then things start to swing in Minnesota's direction.
He's kind of a pair with Julius Randle in exactly that way, Justin, where it's like his ability to play big, to play to his size and his length has to be a weapon for the Wolves offense. And it is kind of a test in its own way. Like, this is a guy who's not the most fluid off the dribble player, even when he's attacking closeouts. Like, there's something kind of mechanical about the way he moves. Will he be able to knife through the rotating Thunder defense in the way that he's already been successful in these playoffs? I think he will. I think he's going to have a pretty big mark on this series overall. I think his ability to play and finish through contact is so important, and even more important against a defense like OKC's, but he's got to bring it. Like, he and Randall have to be the pressure points as far as using size against the Thunder and kind of piercing through all the rotation and all the help that those guys want to bring.
I'm feeling a lot of Wolves optimism here.
I think it's there.
Yeah.
They're really good and they have a strong case. It's just, do you trust their decision making?
Also, here's another thing that, and I know we're going to talk about the other playoff series, but like watching the Knicks legitimately, again, when Tatum got hurt, they went up 9 with 2 minutes and 40-something seconds to go. They were about to go 3-1 on the fucking Celtics. Like, I I don't know why I'm supposed to think the Wolves can't beat OKC. Like,
Sure.
after seeing what the Knicks have done, or even Indiana, they wiped the floor with Cleveland. I get it. They had injury problems and all that stuff. They shouldn't have lost in no 5 games, dude. They kicked that team's ass. That's why I'm just like, look, man, like the playoffs are just a completely different animal. And I don't know why I'm supposed to think that Minnesota has no chance here. Like, I think they can win this series.
They absolutely have a chance. And I think some of the counterpoint, too, as far as the turnover stuff we were talking about earlier is, what if that doesn't go the way we think, right? If OKC forces a ton of turnovers and commits very few, Minnesota forces a ton in their own right. And so if the turnover margin isn't as favorable for the Thunder, and maybe it's not equal, but something closer to, all of a sudden there's a ton of pressure on OKC's half-court offense to produce, right? Like then you're getting into a real rock fight where I think the Wolves are better suited to that kind of series than the Thunder are. So there's ways that this thing could like level out really quickly, even beyond the shooting. The shooting is impossible to parse. Like the Thunder were a good shooting team in the regular season from 3. As you said, JV shot 32% for the playoffs overall, and in that second round, I think you could take that as thinking that at some point they're going to shoot better, I would think. Many playoff teams have gone home lamenting the threes that they should have made. That's just a part of playoff basketball. I also think that the Thunder are terrifying in that they are the one team of these 4 that did not shoot well and still won. They have everything they need to win series against high-level opponents, even when they don't hit threes. That's something the Wolves have to respect, and that's something they have to be at least a little bit intimidated by.
Yeah, I would feel a little bit more comfortable with their shooting if someone in the Wiggins, Isaiah Joe range like had just like a absolute scintillating night from 3. And even in that game 7, Wiggins missed a ton of them. Joe basically couldn't get on the floor because of his defensive concerns. Maybe he gets a little bit more run in this series, maybe against some of their second units, but I don't know. It seems like that might just keep happening. And if anything, they're going to have to win ugly, but we've seen it happen time and time again. Before we make predictions here, I do want to do a little bit of a legacy check. If we're going into this series, who are we saying has the most on the line, big picture, that like needs this series more than anybody else? Does anyone come to mind?
Terrence Shannon. it's make or break time.
Dillingham?
To me, it's Julius Randle because he literally is looking for a new deal.
That's true.
Like, if Ant doesn't come through, whatever. I got my Supermax. Shea, J-Dub, none of this is going to change anything for him. Chet, same thing. Julius Randle is literally playing for his next deal in real time. So to me, he has the most on the line, like, because he actually has money on the line.
Yeah, I think we may have passed the threshold for J-Dub. Where like if they hadn't gotten
it doesn't
past
matter
Denver,
what he plays, like he's getting paid, bruh.
Well, not just he's getting paid, but like the Thunder in terms of their confidence in the team that they have assembled and the shape of it. I think they've done enough to this point to say, okay, like we see J-Dub improving in certain ways. We know he's still kind of on that curve, but he's showing progress. This is going to be an interesting Chet series, though. Like, it's one thing to feel a little bit marginalized offensively by that Denver zone. There should be opportunities here for Chet to hit threes. There should be opportunities here for him to fight inside a little bit. It's going to be a challenge, clearly. Like, he's not super suited to that stuff yet. And yes, in terms of a legacy sense, in terms of like, are they going to trade Chet Holmgren? No, obviously not. But we may come out of the series changing how we think about him, depending on how he performs.
Those are good picks. Have you guys sensed the pressure mounting not only on the Thunder to like live up to the ballyhoo of this regular season, but also on Shea now that he is the presumptive MVP winner? And the fact that they held off on giving anyone the MVP award was a little...
Which was bullshit, by the way. The NBA is so stupid, dude. They should have presented Shea Gilgeous-Alexander with that MVP award before Game 7.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
How about this ladder match before the game for the MVP? Yes. They're both going for it. I like it. No,
it's much better theater.
Amazing theater, dude.
Listen, Dirk had to go up. Dirk had to go up and give the saddest press conference in human history when he accepted his after they got their ass beat by the Warriors. So yeah, no, there is precedent for this.
Yeah,
that would have added so much more juice to that game.
Yes.
The dude he beat out for MVP right there, game 7, like, I'm going to show you why I won this award. Or it's going to be like, maybe he should have won the award. You know, like, that would have been just amazing, dude.
That's, to me, the lowest hanging fruit, as you say, to juice the competitiveness of an already super competitive game, to charge the conversation around it. And it's all basketball oriented. Like, the NBA is constantly complaining about, like, oh, people focus too much on trade rumors. People focus too much on these things. It's like, that's straight basketball. And you had a chance to amplify the theater of the game within the game. And you chose not to. And I wonder if, I don't know this, I'm just straight conjecture. I wonder how much the teams had a say in that. If the Thunder or the Nuggets.
I could see Presti 86 in that easily.
I could see the teams themselves saying, like, we would rather not, and the NBA going, like, following their lead on that particular front. So I don't know where the decision making came from. I just know as someone watching the game, I missed it. I'm sad we didn't get that opportunity.
I just keep picturing Ousmane Dieng like coming from the crowd with a chair. Like he pulls a mask off. And just, it's Jokic. Oh my God, the blood. No, but I wouldn't say I feel pressure for Shea, but it does feel like there's a lot mounting on him to like really make good, especially as the foul merchant stuff starts to build around him. It just feels like people are like, all right, you almost won a historic amount of games. Let's prove it. I think there's a high possibility that they might. Where are you leaning, Rob, in the series overall?
I mean, for first of all, on the Shea front, I feel like we're a little bit harsh on him sometimes in that way because it was a matchup of MVPs. Like, the dude's averaging 29, 6, and 6. You know, it's like pretty fucking good.
On the flip side,
we're not talking about Joel Embiid in the playoffs level numbers here.
But you have to be great. Waz laid out the blueprint. You have to be great.
And then you got to be great again, and then you got to do it all over again.
Well,
like, this is what you got to do.
You have to be great, then you have to do it in the finals.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you have to be great, then you have to do it in the playoffs, then you have to do it in the finals, then you got to do it all over
There we go. So we're midway through the cycle. I also wonder with him, like, how much differently would we be talking about Shea if anyone beyond Alex Caruso could hit a shot? Like, if he's averaging 29 and 10, holy shit. Right? Like, then it's a different conversation. It's like, I'm not sure he would be playing that differently under those circumstances.
I think this is working out the way it's supposed to, because I think there was a thought that the Thunder would mow people down. And quite frankly, if that was the case, the shit would be uninteresting. And I don't know that we would be looking at Shea, because they wouldn't be doing it in a fashion where it was like, oh, Shea is just single-handedly doing this. It'd be because his teammates were making a bunch of shots too. The way that it's unfolding right now, I think it allows for people to come to the realization like, no, this guy is legitimately one of the 2-3 best players. And on many nights, he's the best player the NBA has to offer. And he's doing it series by series, game by game, crunch time by crunch time. To me, this is the best possible outcome for Shea, man. Like, I'm happy he's having these moments.
A hero's journey, if you will.
Yes.
Truly.
Exactly.
Joseph Campbell, eat your heart out.
Yeah. To be clear, I think Shea has been great. I think Jokic was great in the previous
He's the
round as well.
Jon Snow of the NBA playoffs.
Right. It just seems like
Has he already died, or is that still to come?
Does he have
Still
a wolf?
to come.
All right. Prediction before we go to the East. What do you guys got?
I think Thunder in 6. I do think this is the series where the Wolves' sloppiness catches up to them a little bit. And you can get away with that stuff against the Lakers, and you can get away with it against the Warriors without Steph. You get here with all these defenders waiting in the wings, ready to pounce if you get even a little bit sloppy. I don't know that the Wolves are going to have quite the same level of precision that Jokic and the Nuggets did. And so I think the Thunder will win at 6.
I think the Wolves are a classic play up to the level of your competition type of team. And I think they're going to meet the moment and win this thing in 7 games. Picking the Wolves.
Nice.
We love it.
And Edwards' first NBA Finals appearance.
We should say we now know categorically this will be 7 straight seasons with 7 different champions.
Yep.
Because
Insane.
none of these teams are defending or
Makes
have had
no
a
sense.
win in that span. Incredible.
Do you
stuff.
like that?
I'm into it. I'm into spreading the wealth. I'm into widening the competitive window. And I think the variety of the way teams have gotten here, as far as like how they got their stars, how they built their rosters, that stuff is exciting to me.
I'm into the teams, but there's something to like every playoff being marred by like insane amounts of injuries, dude.
Yeah.
Like that is that's something that is really concerning for me. That every single playoffs, it's like this war of attrition. Look, the teams that we got right now are relatively healthy, knock on wood. So I'm happy for that. But like, like Boston's run through the East last year, like that shit sucked. And it's not their fault. It's like they played a bunch of teams that got hurt. They lost Kristaps. Like that kind of sucks. That's the thing that kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. But like the Knicks or the Pacers making the NBA Finals is crazy.
Yeah.
Or the Wolves or the Thunder. Like teams that have not been there.
Dude.
I'll go, I'm going to go Thunder in 6 as well, as much as I could see it for the Wolves. Like my like core deep belief system wants to pick the Wolves because like I could see it in my mind's eye that it happens, but like when you break everything down, it's just like, God damn, the Thunder are probably the worst type of opponent that the Wolves want to see at this point. So I'll follow Rob on that one. Eastern Conference Finals, Knicks and Pacers. Luckily we have 2 celebrity representatives for each team. It's basically like I'm talking to Pat McAfee and Spike Lee of the podcast realm right now. Do you guys feel something personal on the line?
Only in the sense that the level of gloating I will be doing if the Pacers make the NBA Finals will be unprecedented on this podcast. So just be prepared for that. But other than that, look, I just want a good, clean series. I'm here for some fun.
Okay. Obviously I know my ties, my background, New York City, it's not a cliche. They are absolutely on fire for this freaking team. And not just the insanity that's going on outside of MSG every game, which is like...
Leave Windy alone, guys. He's been through enough this year.
I'm sorry. Windy's my guy. I know I'm biased, but I was just like, come
Leave
on,
the man
dog.
alone.
Leave Windy alone after a long night of work. Let that man get to his hotel room for room service, please.
Secondarily, do we know how that random Knicks fan got up on top of that video billboard? Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
How did he get up there?
I don't know, dude. Like the shit. Like I'm still seeing videos from that night that I haven't seen yet. Just crazy shit. Like I'm just like, wow, that happened too. That like insane. That them throwing a trash bag on the kid in the Pacers jersey.
Uncalled for. Uncalled for.
How do we feel about the celebration overall that they won a second round series and New York just went insane like they just won the finals?
So here's the thing. I think my thinking on that has changed because of my fandom of European soccer, where they literally will celebrate anything.
More hooliganism, you're saying?
Yes. Crystal Palace just beat Man City in the FA Cup. It's a big cup. It's a big... the championship or title, the first time in their history. My timeline is just Crystal Palace fans like crying. They didn't win the league. They didn't do something that is associated with like a crazy amount of prestige, but their fans are literally losing their minds. They've never achieved this before. So they're 22, 25. Shit, man. If you were 3 in 1999 or 2000, like you don't know Knicks' success of any kind. I'm not begrudging these people for having a good time with it. I'm just not like, act like you've been there. They've never been there.
It's just very true.
They never even been close.
They could tell you what
Alexi Shved days were not that long ago.
Exactly. They could tell you what Cole Aldridge scored off the bench like for 2 years straight, but yeah, they can't tell
Straight
you.
up.
Well, or anything up from the glory days. Okay, I get it. It reminds me of like teams that tear down the goalpost. On the one hand, like go have fun as much as possible, but you're one of the fucking blue bloods here, man. Just like it is a little unbecoming. But if they want to do it, by all means. Rob, this to me seems like a real stress test of the power of depth. It's like the clear example of a team built with 8 to 10 guys that they can throw out there versus a team that can throw out 5. But I will say, Mitchell Robinson, Miles McBride, starting to show a little bit more. So are we at 7 at this point? Like, do you feel confident in 7? With
Mitchell
Knicks?
Robinson's a guy. Straight up.
He's a guy.
He's a guy. I think we're in 6.5 guys territory because he's like Mitchell Robinson is 0.75 guys. There's a margin for error there where he's getting fouled off the floor or just like does not have it offensively or is getting kind of lost in the sauce of the way the Pacers play on defense. Like those are all possibilities. Deuce Also 0.75 guys. Maybe that might be generous, but I thought he came on strong at the end of that last series in a way that I'm encouraged by, and love seeing a good
He's
deuce moment and a good
against
deuce
the
series.
Pacers. I'll tell you that much.
I think he's going to have his shots and his chances in this. It's just, is he going to capitalize on them or not?
Can I give you a Mitch stat real quick?
I would love one.
The Towns Mitchell Robinson budding buddy cop, that's a drama that's happening here. Robinson plus Towns in 90 minutes together in the playoffs, 77.5 total rebound percentage. It's not offensive rebounds, that's not defensive rebounds. They are getting more than 3/4 of the rebounds when they're on the court together.
And on offense, it's almost 40 fucking percent of your own misses with those guys on the floor. That's remarkable. That's incredible. If Mitchell Robinson's minutes can stretch at all in this series, I think the Knicks are probably going to win it. It's going to be a matter of, can the Pacers contain that? Can they contain his impact? This is a like good, not great rebounding team for Indy. Like I know like the numbers can pop in different ways, but as far as like actual guys on the floor in the trenches of a playoff series, you know, Pascal Siakam can get moved around a little bit. Miles Turner can get moved around a little bit. They're going to have their hands full trying to keep those guys off the glass. Plus, I would say, as far as Indy's transition offensive rebounding for the Knicks is one of the best ways to actually combat that. If you can prevent the Pacers from securing the board and getting out, then all of a sudden you're making the Pacers think twice about everything they want to do.
I think if the Knicks can play defense with the level of commitment and intent that they did in Game 6. I don't know if you guys saw that Mitchell Robinson clip of him rotating literally to all 5 Celtics in the one possession.
I did see this.
If the Knicks can play with that collective intensity and focus and dedication on defense, they're going to win this series. Because we know in close games, they can manufacture buckets between Brunson, between finding little mismatches here and there, between even getting out on transition and clutch. Like they find ways to manufacture buckets in tight situations. It's just a matter of don't let these games get away from you because you're playing stupid or ill-informed defense, or you're being lazy getting back, or all of that kind of stuff. They're a low turnover team, so Indy's not going to be like killing them in transition like that. Bruh, if they play defense like they did against the Celtics in Game 6, the Knicks can go to the finals, man.
It's wild to think about. But that really is it, that the Knicks have, against all odds, become a defense-first team. Like this group of players has become a defense-first team. And I thought they did an outstanding job of keeping Boston out of the flow of the way that they want to play during critical stretches of that series, healthy or not. I think the Pacers are a different proposition in that way, though. Like, there is not a Jason Tatum on this team. I say with all due respect to Jason Tatum.
Yeah,
who,
they don't have the option of doing hero ball.
They don't.
They can't play like that, so they don't.
They don't have the luxury of it. They don't have somebody like Tyrese Halliburton, if anything, to a fault, wants to keep probing, wants to keep looking for the shot, doesn't want to like settle for the step back, although sometimes he certainly will. And so like I think they're going to be moving the Knicks defense more consistently than even Boston's offense was able to.
I do worry that if the Knicks win here, that every conversation we've had about depth over the course of the regular season, which was like 37 at this point, might just like go to shit, because I do think the Knicks have the perfect recipe in order to overcome that. Not only are they getting some help from the 2 or 3 bench guys that they were kind of counting on, but also like their defenders. Yes, they weren't a good regular season defense, but they have the exact 2 sort of guys in order to match up with the Siakam Halliburton with Bridges.
But Justin, you're not wrong about the depth thing though.
Yeah.
The reason they sucked over the course of the season, because you can't ask 6 guys to play like this for 82 games.
Yeah.
Like, you're not wrong. Like, it's true. You can't ask 6.5 dudes or 6 3/4 dudes to play the way the Knicks have in the playoffs over the course of 82. It's not going to happen.
So you're saying
we're going
right.
to be united here.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
Right,
the 3 of us are going to huddle up, link arms, and we are going to refuse to be bullied, no matter if the Knicks make the finals. On the fact that depth does not matter. Of course it matters.
It matters more than ever. I'm convinced of it. Like, even, again, the Warriors, Steph Curry sustaining a muscle injury after basically playing for their playoff and playing lives for 2 months. straight after the trade in February to April, they are going balls to the wall essentially because they were so low in the standings and this guy gets hurt. Like, there's something to, like, you can't ask guys to treat the regular season like the playoffs unless you have 10 of them. And you can do it. All right, one night, like, yo, Wiggins, you're not going to play like that. Case and Wallace, all right, this night you're not going to play like that. But guess what? In 3 games, we're going to ask you to go balls to the wall. Like, you can't do this, man, with 6 dudes. And, like, in the regular season when, like, OG and Mikal Bridges don't feel like being world beaters on defense, guess what? The next man up is the opposite of world beating.
Yeah.
He's getting ran over by the world, okay? Like, you can't do this over 82 games with some short-ass rotation.
Yep, I agree. I do think, though, like, if we are just looking at starting 5 versus starting 5, the matchups do look particularly juicy for the Knicks, and not only defensively when they're on defense, just because they have the 2 perimeter dogs that you're hoping to stick on the Indies' 2 best players, but also on the other side where it's like Halliburton is probably going to have to guard the worst offensive player, which is Josh Hart. And unfortunately, Josh Hart...
He can't guard Josh Hart.
Not only is he a menace,
yeah.
but when he gets to the playoffs, he shoots like he's fucking Steph Curry, and he's shooting 42% from 3 right now. Just what happens...
And he was awesome in the regular season matchup for that reason. Josh Hart, like a lot of Tyrese Halliburton guarding him.
He can't guard Josh Hart.
Then where do you put him?
Well, I think
like,
the hope would be that Towns is so squirrely in this series that it creates more advantages elsewhere. I think Towns getting back is going to be a concern. We'll see what he's going to be offensively. Is he going to put up more threes? Like, what's the deal with the hand at this point? Is that preventing? I know if it's his offhand, but like, is that preventing him from taking threes? Is he going to be more focused on like pounding in the post like he was in that Celtics series? Rob, as someone who just recently had a hand injury, like, has it changed your game at all?
Yeah, because my game does not exist anymore. I am not a Karl Anthony Towns. I am off the court until this thing heals up. So we got a couple of months to go. So yeah, I empathize very clearly with Karl Anthony Towns. So I think has had a really good playoffs despite that injury and found ways to be successful more inside than out, and still with really high level shot making and high leverage shot making, just not in the ways that we're necessarily used to. And that's gonna be a question for him in this series. Like, Indy is really good at taking away the stuff that OG Anunoby relies on offensively, that Mikal Bridges relies on offensive, like that perimeter-oriented catch-and-shoot offense, Indy's really good at neutralizing. The fact that Cat isn't so reliant on that right now, I think does work in New York's favor. And he's going to have opportunities to try to bully Miles Turner inside, who I think has had a great playoffs, Miles Turner. That'll be a fun matchup to watch, but like overall, even just like who you guard with whom, there's so many different options to go with. Justin, you mentioned, like, if you're New York, do you just put Mikal Bridges and OG on the 2 best offensive players? I think that's probably the default. I would not be surprised if by the end or in critical moments of the series, you have Mikal guarding Tyrese Halliburton and you have OG Anunoby guarding Miles Turner to just like X out that pick and roll game. Like, you're just going to switch that screen on the ball every single time. But on the other side of it, who do you guard? Who guards Jalen Brunson? Because Andrew Nembhard, despite profiling as somebody who should be able to do it, historically has not been able to do it.
Smith was their best Brunson defender last year.
He was. But do you need him to guard someone like Cat? Do you need him to guard someone like OG? Like, the more you move the matchups around, if you're the Pacers, then Nembhard is guarding big, Tyrese Halliburton is guarding big. Like, things can get really messy really quickly if you put Nesmith on Brunson full time, which they honestly might have to do.
Nesmith, another of those guys, just shooting the hell out of the ball despite not being a good 3-point shooter. 50%.
Every time he makes it 3, I think about Isaiah.
It's a goddamn knuckleball out there. But he's making half of his nearly 4.5 threes in the postseason, despite shooting 29%. Did it just, like, these guys just come about, and I just don't know what to do with them because all the history says one thing and the playoffs say another.
I think the Knicks have more talent than the Pacers do. However, the Pacers consistently play above their heads.
Yep.
They just keep on doing it. Nesmith, Nembhard, goddamn TJ O'Connell, like...
It's a clear identity, too.
He got more Irish? What happened?
Yeah.
Like, they just play above their skis, man, like it's incredible to watch. So obviously, I think the Knicks are gonna win this series. They got a little bit of team of destiny vibes to them, especially in these tight moments. Like in the clutch, like you just know they're going to make something happen, which is again fucking insane. But I don't discount the Pacers' ability to win this at all. I think this is going 7. I think it's gonna be an all-time slugfest of a series. But I think the Knicks just overall, man, like they can force Nembhard and Nesmith and guys that aren't Siakam, that aren't Tyrese. They can force those guys to be, you got to beat us.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good winning formula, honestly.
Those guys can beat you, though.
They can in game. They will beat you, though.
Yeah. Daring Andrew
games.
Nembhard to beat you is not, I would not recommend it if you have that option available to you. And now, look, this is what it is. You're right. I think the Knicks on paper are a more talented starting group, have more maybe like base talent in the rotation relative to what you think of the Pacers. We're now 2 straight seasons in which Indiana has the best half-court offense in the playoffs. So all the transition stuff that we talk about, super fun.
Yeah,
obviously, Indiana's
matter.
really good there. Half-court offense, number 1, 2 years in a row, the Indiana Pacers. That's Nembhard. That is Nesmith. That's Miles Turner. That's Pascal Siakam. That's Obi Toppin becoming a half-court weapon as much as a transition weapon. That's Tyrese Halliburton improving this year in his half-court execution, his ability to hunt shots against certain matchups, one of them being guys like Karl Anthony Towns or Mitchell Robinson, case in point. I think the Pacers are going to win this. I think the Pacers are going to the NBA Finals.
Wow. We need to get, have you ever seen for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, they have these it's almost like the cheesehead equivalent helmet sort of thing, but it's a corn cob. So
I would love it.
I think we need to get that for you. You're General Corn Cob right now.
General Corn Cob reporting for duty.
Rob Mahoney is picking the Pacers for the finals. I'm not surprised, honestly. The Pacers have been incredible for 6 months damn near now.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want?
Well, and as far as the team of destiny stuff, too, the Knicks have been incredible in those moments. I think the Pacers have played better, more consistent basketball overall than the Knicks have in these playoffs.
That's true.
And so I think their style of play, transition and half court, is just, I think it's going to wear the Knicks down. I think it's going to wear those 6.5 guys down a little bit over the course of these conference finals. And it's going to be tough to keep up by the end. I'd pick Pacers in 6.
I think that's the way to think about it, where it's like a team with such a clear identity of who they are and they never really stray from it. Nobody's really knocked them off, at least in this postseason thus far, from that. Whereas like you're hoping for the component parts of the Knicks to like play above their heads. Like OG, for instance, is a guy who has to like routinely provide offense, and he has struggled at times, especially in that second round, where it's like, is he going to come through? We need all of those 5 guys to play like all-stars functionally in order to get by. Whereas like if things go wrong for the Pacers, they're just like better at problem solving because they have more options. It's a lesser degree of what we talked about with the Thunder. Unfortunately, I am still going to pick the Knicks because the talent is so much more overwhelming.
I thought you were
I'm
picking
Knicks in 6.
I thought you were going to pick against the best Knicks since Willis Reed.
Well, here's the thing. I looked back at our preseason pods, our preseason variables, and looked at our projections.
You were very high on the Knicks.
I picked Thunder Knicks. And now all it took was for me to abandon that opinion like after 2 months and have no faith in it whatsoever for most of the season. But I still think I got dibs on that. So if it happens,
yeah, you get to circle back. You have the right.
I keep seeing my algorithm on Insta is Knicks pilled, and I keep seeing this like compilation of a bunch of people picking the Celtics against the Knicks. I'm like, Knicks fans, did y'all really think y'all were gonna smoke the Celtics in 6 games? Like y'all would go up 3. Like nobody thought this. Nobody's an idiot for picking against the Knicks. I'm sorry. They have not proven that they should not be picked against. You know what I mean? This isn't like every year I would root against Tom Brady and fucking Bill Belichick and they go to the Super Bowl anyway. Y'all ain't that. It's like people pick against you for valid reasons.
This run is fun and interesting precisely because no one was anticipating this from the Knicks, including these. I would guess many of these same Knicks fans who I would say throughout the season had a mild dislike to sometimes utter contempt for this team.
Dude, the amount of complaints of it, like Karl Towns is so like up and down with the Knicks fans. You know, Miles Bridges, who like, I never noticed this quirk in his game until Knicks fans brought it up where he never goes in for a layup.
No, doesn't want to do it.
He will stop short.
Good mid-range game, though.
Fadeaway mid-ranger. It's like, why is this guy opposed to taking layups? Blah, blah, blah. What's up with this? Bro, they've been through hell and back with this team.
Yeah.
But man, it's all crescendoing at the right time.
Can we do a quick legacy check here? Because I have the guy that does the early 2000s song covers for every Knicks game. That guy is a hero, and he has been for us throughout this entire season. But I've seen people catching on. Like I saw they talked about him on that Roommates show with Brunson and Hart.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's gonna hit the mainstream by the time where we get to the finals when the Knicks are in it. He's gonna be doing segments on ESPN. I could already see it.
I mean, I kind of want them to win just to see what he cooks up for the finals.
They've been good. There was like a rap guy that came in one time.
They're expanding the ensemble,
adding new pitches to his game.
I think whoever comes out of the West is probably going to win the NBA championship. I do think that.
That feels
I think
fair.
the two Western teams are better than these two teams. However, that shit y'all saw after Game 6 was a warm-up.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, Jesus Christ.
You're saying
dude.
legacy check for New York's first responders?
Do not let Jalen Brunson lead this team to a championship.
Well, who has most
My
to gain?
God.
Because I think Brunson is already king of New York sports, and he's going to stay that way even if they lose in this round. Does Towns, for instance, go from he's a guy that people know in New York to a legend in perpetuity? He will be at these games 30 years from now where we're potting on AI?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's finishing out that insane contract. I mean, Josh Hart becomes... basically,
he's already beloved too.
Immortal.
He's already a New York guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Brunson legacies, it's crazy because it's everybody's busy. It's like Walt Claude Frazier, Willis Reed, Patrick Ewing.
Yep.
Jalen Brunson.
They'll name a bridge after Bridges.
That's so crazy. Dog.
He's already done more than Melo ever did as a Knick. Straight up has done so much more. And this is what's fun about the legacy talk for this particular series is it's all upside. There is nobody who's their reputation would really suffer if they didn't make the NBA finals. It's all gravy for both of these teams. They're playing phenomenally well, and there's so much to gain by making the NBA finals.
So when they went to the conference finals, because it got erased from my brain that after the finals run, they went to the conference finals in 2000 as well. The team was legitimately good. But nobody says Latrell Sprewell carried them, or Allen Houston carried them, or Marcus Camby carried them. It was a collective group. It's not like they had this guy who every fourth quarter was putting a cape on the way that it's happening with Brunson. It's just a completely different situation, man. Knicks fans feel confident when this guy has the rock in his hand in the fourth quarter in a way that's just never been the case in my life for watching the Knicks. I grew up during the Pat Ewing finger roll debacle. I grew up during that John Starks 3 for 18.
Yeah.
But that's what I know about the Knicks in the clutch and big moments. And Brunson has just been the opposite of that.
I mean, maybe that's the legacy check is teams led by point guards. We have not seen a lot of them have breakthrough finals type runs or championship runs like either of these teams would. And Brunson in particular.
OKC is a point guard driven team as well.
Absolutely so. And fair to say, I think Brunson being as small as he is and the Iverson adjacent sort of appeal of watching a player like that overcome incredible odds, not to mention how many years ago that we were having the Becky Hammon, Jalen Brunson sized players can't win in the playoffs conversation. Remember there was this whole line of punditry. Who knows, honestly, at this point. But that conversation has been out there and is in front offices too, as far as which players do you want to build around? Do you want to bank on somebody who's 6'1"?
You want to bank on Kawhi and LeBron in their primes. Yeah, I get that. But sometimes you can't get that kind of player. So you got to build another way.
I do think if we're talking about point guards, Halliburton deserves a mention here because right now I think there are a couple people, I won't name names, who are hesitant to put him into the upper echelon of guys.
A couple, or maybe just one.
We don't want to like nitpick and like throw people under the bus here.
I will never forget watching opening night with you guys and Justin trying to soft launch his Tyrese Halliburton is overrated take in the room.
I was right for half a season. He was playing like crap for half a season. Apparently he sad.
Came around.
He did. He turned it around in January.
No doubt.
If he makes the finals, though, we're talking like, top 10, top 14 Brunson range for him. I think pretty consistently. Like, you pass the threshold and you can't really come back from there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, point guards used to be like this, like Stockton and J. Kidd and Gary Payton. They weren't, like, nowadays, you got to be like Brunson as a point guard. You got to be like Ja Morant. You got to be like a threat to absolutely score for people to take you seriously as a point guard. But like elite point guards used to come in this package and we used to be fine with it. It's just like now point guards have become these guys like, Derrick Rose in his MVP season. Like, no, these guys, Russell Westbrook when he was in his prime, like, no, these guys have to be killers on the ball. They got to be, scoring threats every time they touch it. And Halliburton is sort of, subverting that. It's crazy.
Just call him an engine now and makes it sound cooler. It's like, oh, you don't have to score. You're an offensive engine. You're a hub.
We're talking.
This is blogger talk. This is blogger talk.
So I'd say it sounds like a Kyle Mannism to me. So maybe there's some overlap with the blogger talk.
Spending too much time with Kyle Mann, unfortunately, just seeping into my my words here. All right, let's wrap it there. We'll be back Wednesday night, talk about Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Thank you to Isaiah Blakely. Thank you to Ben Cruz. We'll talk to you next time. Must be 21 plus and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.